Welcome. My name is Dana Damara. You've landed on Astrocast. This is a special recording for an event that took place on February 19th, 2024, and that is Chiron conjunct the North Node. Now, it's okay that I didn't record this right on the 19th, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Chiron and the North Node. So first of all, whenever planets conjunct each other, what they do is they kind of support one another in their essence. They support one another in amplifying their energy. Okay. So in some schools of thought, Chiron isn't even a planet. Chiron is still considered an asteroid. However, it was founded in 1977, I believe, and it's a planet. It creates a lot of, it's actually a really important placement on your chart. So when people say, what do you know about astrology? 99% of people will know their sun sign. Some people will know their moon sign and their rising sign, which is very important, but not a lot of people know their Chiron. And Chiron is so important. Chiron is the wounded warrior. Chiron is our deepest wound in life. And we all have a Chiron placement, okay? And one of the stories behind Chiron is that he was born to Zeus as a half man, half centaur. And this displeased Zeus. He wasn't happy with the way Chiron came into the world. And he subsequently banned him from his family. Okay, so he said, "You're not good enough. And so you have to go somewhere else." Okay, he abandoned his son. And Apollo, the great warrior, adopted him. Okay, now this is just one story. There's many other stories. Apollo, the great god of war, adopted him, and so turned him into this beautiful warrior. Now, Chiron would not have been a beautiful warrior had he not embraced his abandonment issue. I don't know if this sounds familiar to anyone, but when we look at astrology and we look at even individuals, 90% of the time, any kind of issue that we have follows its way to some sort of lack, a not enoughness, if you will. So this is Chiron, okay? So the only way Chiron can heal and live a life that is actualized is if Chiron embraces that wound. Now, knowing where your Chiron placement is important, because when you know where your Chiron placement is, then you can say, oh, well, this sort of makes sense. Wow, I've been having a lot of these issues in my whole life, and now we understand we can work with the problem or issue or wound, whatever you want to call it. Now let's go over to this North Node. Okay, so North Node is not even a planet. Okay, the North Node is actually a placement on the zodiac wheel, and it's opposite the South Node. Okay, now the North Node is our karmic destiny. I'm not sure how else to explain it, but it's our karmic destiny. So when you know your North Node and where it is and what house it's in, you can again look at some of the things that have happened to you in your life, and you can really begin to realize where you've made these decisions and they've really lined up with your karma. They were there for a reason. They were there for you to learn and grow. Okay. So that's the North Node and Chiron separately. I want to show you my screen. So hopefully I pull up the right one. Yes. So there it is, right here, Chiron in the North Node at 16 degrees. And this was on February 19th. First of all, it takes Chiron 50 years to orbit the sun. Okay, so when Chiron comes around and orbits the sun and comes back to that space on your astrological chart, you are experiencing a Chiron return. Now, anybody born in the years of 1968 to 1977, you are in your Chiron return right now. So if you didn't know that, yay you. Probably going through some life lessons on some way, shape, or form. So it's so funny to me that that's when people say we start our midlife crisis, when I really don't think it's a midlife crisis. I believe it is a midlife awakening where we start to realize what we're doing with our life. And then it takes the nodes 27 years to come around, a little bit less than Saturn. Isn't that interesting? So, the last time these guys met was 2008, which is another interesting thing for me, which is when Pluto was in Capricorn. So I don't know. We'll just see how this all plays out. I just find it to be very interesting. So when we talk about Chiron and the North Node conjuncting one another, it really is a big deal because it gives us the opportunity to understand our deepest wound and to actually see how it aligns with some of our karmic lessons, right? So remember I said when planets conjunct one another, they come together to support one another, to amplify their energy. So hopefully what happens when Chiron and the North Node meet is we have this awakening of, you know, oh, these are my karmic patterns. Oh, this is my deepest wound. And how can I find a way to break through this conditioning of my wound, my thing, right? It gives us an unique opportunity to look at the wound from a different angle and rewrite our karmic patterns, right? So breaking the cycle of ancestral patterns. Okay. So let me stop share for a moment. So when we have the North Node and Chiron meet one another, we can take this moment in time to ask ourselves, okay, first of all, what is my deepest wound? Well, if you don't know, that's okay. I would say just look at the times when you get really triggered, and that could point you in the direction of what your deepest wound is. Because when we get triggered about something, it's, as most of us know, it's never about what's happening in that moment in time, ever, ever. It is about some time of some sort of same situation that happened when you were, this tall. And it's the same thing. And so when we dig deeper, we can understand why we react the way we react when we react, right? And if you dug really deep, I would bet money, and I'm not a gambler, that it has something to do with abandonment or neglect or not being enough. This is almost always the way that it rolls out, being not worthy, all of this, okay? So when we talk about the Chiron North Node conjunction, this is an opportunity to absolutely, first of all, embrace our ancestral patterning. How many times do we try to like just not accept it? Well, I'm not going to be like my mom, and I don't want to be like my dad, and I don't want to do the same things. I mean, we all do it. Every single one of us does it in some way, shape, or form. And there's a way to release ourselves from karmic patterns without rejecting them. So there's a big difference in rejection and releasing. And here's the thing that I like to think about when I think about, excuse me, like ancestral patterns and our, mothers and our fathers and our grandmothers and our grandfathers and then our great grandparents, right? And this is the truth, you guys. They didn't have all the tools that we have. They didn't have access to the things that we have access to. So when I think about working through karmic patterns or ways that I react, because we all do it, I really do my best to take responsibility. And when I hear myself saying, well, that's what my mom did, or that's what my dad did, I will never say that's why I do it. I say, I wonder how we can do this differently. Does it make for perfection? Absolutely not. It makes for an awakened, authentic, responsible existence, though, right? So when we look at this Chiron North Node conjunction, first of all, we want to be aware of our generational trauma, and we all have it. We all have something. We all came from some generation that was really struggling somewhere down the line. And instead of looking at it as a crutch or being angry with our parents or our grandparents, we need to try to find the silver lining. We need to be able to say, first of all, have a sense of acceptance. Secondly, have a sense of compassion. And then, allowing ourselves to work with that energy, right? And I I think it's really important because I've done a lot of work with Chiron and North Node, because it's a very interesting it's a very interesting dynamic, if you will. When we talk about letting go of ancestral patterning or generational trauma, there's so many things. This is like these are big buzzwords in a lot of different communities. Remember that letting go isn't saying that it's okay that someone was treated a certain way, or it's okay, or we'll just brush it under the rug and we'll go do the holidays together, even though we haven't talked about what's, ramifications or consequences, right? But it is working in this energy field with the framework of compassion, grace, boundaries, coexisting. Okay, so it's big work. It's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for those individuals that have no interest in internal gazing, if you will. So when Chiron conjuncts North Node, and by the way, this is happening in Aries. So this is happening while all you Chiron people and Aries North Node people, all my North Node and all my Chiron Aries, that's me, both. It's happening in this moment in time to give us an opportunity to turn the page, to cut the ties of, first of all, not only our generational trauma or our ancestral patterning, but also the blame game, like really trying to cut ties. And some questions that we can ask ourselves is like, wow, who am I and what do I really want in this life? And, what are my true passions in this life? And who am I when I just take away all of those old stories? Now, Byron Katie is a great teacher for this. Who are you without that story? Like, just meditate on that. Who are you without that story? Just like zip, take it away. What makes me feel alive? What, ignites my passion? What makes me motivated in the morning, right? So feeling alive is really the key for this. And, Aries is that first sign of the zodiac wheel. So it's like a bam, let's go, let's be adventurous, right? And so here we are with these two points on the chart conjunct one another, saying to ourselves, okay, like this is my history, this is my these are my issues, this is where I, have repetitive themes and patterns like addiction or relationship issues or mental health issues, all of this stuff, right? So here I have this bundle of my DNA, like you cannot argue with DNA. You can't, but you can change some of this. You really, truly can. I know you can. So we can look at this bundle of what we have, and then we can say, I want to rewrite this script. I'm not going to reject it because it's who I am, but I want to rewrite it. So how can I rewrite it? So this happened on February 19th. So it's important. Like, I mean, if you got some sort of great download on February 19th, yay you. However, that's when they exactly conjunct, right? But all is not lost, because on April 8th, I'm actually going to show you the screen because I pulled it up. Okay, so when this will really hopefully start to culminate and make sense to you is ironically right around the new moon in Aries. It's a new moon solar eclipse. So see all these planets? Do, 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 do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm counting Chiron in the North Node. Okay, so then 5 if you don't want to count the North Node. 6 planets in the sign of Aries, new moon solar eclipse. Now, eclipses, guys, are all about hitting the reset button. New moons are all about hitting the reset button. Okay. So when we have that energy that started on February 19th, from February 19th to that new moon solar eclipse, do some soul searching. Do some soul searching. Ask yourself, what are my biggest, well, like, what is my pattern that I really don't enjoy? It doesn't make me feel good. I mean, if you can't look in the mirror and say, what is a pattern that I have that I don't necessarily want to carry around anymore, then maybe meditate and go to yoga or something. There's something that is carried, that we're carrying, inherited patterns that we can shift. And it might be something really simple, or it might be a whole bundle of stuff, right? Pick one. And I would bet money, and again, I'm not a gambler, that right around the new moon solar eclipse, something will come to you and you will just be like, ding, 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 ding. And you'll be able to change those patterns. Not easy work, but absolutely incredible. Incredible work. Incredible, incredible work. Now, this is all well and good, but if you want your chart read and you want to know where your Chiron and your North Node are, first step, if you just go to myastrocast.com, you'll get a series of emails from me, and it will tell you kind of how to map out your chart. And you just look for that little KO and the true node, and you'll find it, and then you'll know. Now, if you don't know how to read it, and you're like, okay, now I know where it is, but I have no idea what this means, that's when you reach out to me, Dana Tamara. Okay. Reach out to me and we run your chart, and we talk about, in particularly, how to work with your patterns. Stuff is real. And if you've lasted this long and you've listened to the whole thing, I know you know. So I want to say thank you so much for listening.